In today's world of market volatility and uncertainty, your retirement plans need to be front and center. With ever-changing tax laws, healthcare worries, and an unpredictable stock market, don't overlook the vulnerability in your retirement planning. Protecting your family and estate will be difficult with shifting policies in Washington. It's more important than ever to keep an eye on retirement.
Hi, and welcome into Eye on Retirement. I'm your host, Rick Everett, along with Financial Advisor Danny Goolsby with Market Advisory Group. Eye on Retirement, the weekly show that keeps you in the know about all things retirement. And we've got a lot to cover with Danny, so we'll get right to it. Danny, when we talk about ways to tax plan, if you will, taxes are more than likely going to go up in the future. That seems to be the history.
Yes, yeah.
And they could go much higher.
Likely to go much higher. Yes, sir.
We seem to be in a period right now of experiencing what we would call inflation that we thought may be temporary.
Right.
But it has persisted.
I think they like to use the word transitory.
Yes. I think we've transitory. When we're talking about tax planning and potential tax savings, one of the tools that is utilized quite often is the conversion to a Roth IRA.
Yes, sir.
But that's not the only magic bullet in the gun as far as tax saving and tax planning, is it?
No, there's quite a few tools that we have at our disposal. And so if we believe taxes are going up, which, let me back up a step and talk about David Walker, who is the chief comptroller, or used to be the chief comptroller for the United States government. And he served 8 years. He served 4 years under Clinton and 4 years under Bush. And so he's thought to be, bipartisan in that respect. But he said this, he said, whenever your debt is exceeded by, or whenever the interest on your debt exceeds GDP growth, that's not a good thing, and taxes are going to have to go up. And he said that some time ago, and so now taxes seem to be our debt seems to be going up parabolically. And so if you assign what David Walker said about our debt and how fast our debt is increasing, then by all means, yes, taxes are going to have to go up. He said taxes are going to have to double. Now think about that for just a minute. If we don't like paying taxes where they are today, and David Walker, who's someone in the know, who's saying taxes are going to have to double just to service our debt, not to pay down the debt, then what is that going to do for the American taxpayer as far as are they going to have enough to live on? Or how are they going to meet their ends meet when the Uncle Sam is trying to make his ends meet?
Let's break it down, Danny, if we could, for the viewers. We talk about conversion of a traditional IRA into a Roth IRA being a tax-saving device, but just exactly how does that work?
So the main difference between a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA is just when you pay the taxes. So on a traditional IRA, which most people are familiar with a traditional IRA, where you make a contribution every year, or you may be making a contribution through your employer 401k, and then when you leave your employer, you have the opportunity to roll a 401k into a traditional IRA, if you will. But the main difference between a traditional IRA and a Roth IRA is, as I said, when you pay the taxes. So on a Roth conversion, you can simply make that money tax-free going forward, but you have to pay the taxes on the traditional IRA, and you have to pay them at the time of conversion. So a lot of times we get a chance to pay taxes at a certain point on the tax calendar every year. But Uncle Sam says when you make a conversion from a traditional IRA to a Roth IRA, that's the time when you have to pay those taxes. But then going forward, that's where the big benefit comes from, is where now that money is forever outside the grasp of Uncle Sam and the growth on that money. So you can make that money perpetually, as long as you live, that is, tax-free for the rest of your life.
Is there an optimal time as far as when to do the conversion?
So, again, it goes back to what someone might believe about taxes and are they going up at what speed. If we believe that we are in a rising tax environment, if we look at our debt, if we look at different things that just observing around ourselves, and we think taxes are going to go up, then sooner than later. I like to say it this way a lot of times. From the Tax Reform Act of 2017, before that, the tax code that we were in, the taxes were much higher then. But now, again, since the implementation of the Tax Reform Act of 2017, taxes have actually come down a bit. So if you want to look at it from that respect, when to pay those taxes, taxes are cheaper now than they were in the prior tax code. And this tax code is set to sunset or revert back to where those taxes were if Congress doesn't get in the way in the meantime and adjust the tax code. Then by December 31st of 2025, we are going to automatically revert back to where we were. So we want to do taxes now, address those taxes now when taxes are at the most affordable right now.
So when a person is converting a traditional IRA to a Roth, and you stated that taxes have to be paid, are there options on how they can pay those?
Well, options, give me more than that. What do you mean by options?
So if a person were converting a traditional Roth to an IRA, as part of that conversion, could those taxes be paid out of the funds that are being transferred?
So thank you. Yes. Thank you. You can pay taxes out of the conversion. You can pay taxes out of your pocket. Now, it depends on your age. So if you are younger than 59 and a half, then Uncle Sam says you have to pay them out of your pocket. And I defer that to Joshua and the CPA team there. But if you are older than 59 and a half, then you can pay them out of the conversion itself, or you can pay them, if you have extra cash laying around not doing something, then you can actually pay that out of your pocket.
When we're planning for taxes, how does Social Security factor into your tax planning in retirement?
Well, so Social Security is going to be, Social Security is under attack all the way. And when Social Security was first implemented in 1935 by FDR, he made what was called the Golden Promise. He said, if you'll pay into this during your working years, it'll be forever tax-free. And that's the way it worked from 1935 when it was passed. 1939 was when it first started being paid out until 1983. In 1983, Tip O'Neill got together with some other parts of the government, and they said, hey, let's create some taxes on Social Security. So now if your income is over a certain amount, you'll now start paying taxes on your Social Security. Where that comes into play with what your question is if I start to do a Roth conversion and I'm not paying taxes on my Social Security at this point because my income is not considered over those thresholds that Uncle Sam talks about, then if I do a Roth conversion, that may cause me to pay taxes on my Social Security that I was not before paying taxes. So it's important to work with a professional that has the ability to give you tax advice and financial advice at the same time to mix and match those times. When's the best time?
Here at Market Advisory Group, we provide a holistic approach to retirement, all things retirement, whether it's the financial end with our Market Advisory Group financial advisors, the tax implications with Market Tax Services, Medicare questions with our Market Medicare advisors, or even estate planning with Eidelman Law Firm, which is also in-house. At Market Advisory Group, we provide all of those services under one roof, encompassed not only with one fee, but the initial consultation for you to come in and find out how we can benefit you is absolutely complimentary. I'm Rick Everett, and we'll be back with more Eye on Retirement right after this.
When people work with Market Advisor Group, they get a feel of sense of family. There's a lot of relationships that are made and going on in this conference room, and we really take a lot of pride in that and a lot of satisfaction in that.
Every client we work with, we make a custom-made plan to fit them and help reach their goals in life. And then another thing that makes us unique is we want to meet quarterly with our clients and have reviews.
Market Advisory Group, we have a process, and the process we take people through is first to understand what they have, understand who they are, and then we put together an income plan for them and show them how they can look forward to retirement and not look, though retirement is going to be a stressful time. It needs to be a stress-free time.
A few unique features of working with Market Advisor Group is holistic in-house financial consultants. We've got an in-house CPA, Joshua, an in-house estate planning attorney, Gerald, an in-house Medicare advisor, Bill. We rely on all of those professionals for, again, additional service within our consultative process, making sure that we've got the advice and the expertise behind the recommendations that we make.
You know, as an advisor, I'm not there to sell them one way or the other. I'm there to educate them, to let them know what their choices are. Then I try to help them make the right choice where they can save money and feel confident in their decision.
Absolutely the best part of my job is getting a stack of paperwork from somebody and they don't know what to do, and then I can turn around and give them back a tax return, but also to be able to explain what they can do next year that will give them a better answer than what they had this year.
When we've got clients that are calling and they need to help out a child or need to help out a grandchild or need to help themselves out and they're in a situation they didn't expect to be in, I really relish the opportunity to help them through that, help them make the educated decisions in somewhat stressful situations, because a lot of folks don't have that type of counsel.
We meet with so many people one-on-one in this office that don't ever end up becoming a customer or doing business with us, and that's okay. But when they leave our office, we know that we've helped them either get some answers to some of the questions they had or get some clarity on maybe their own path.
But one of the things that we hear all the time is, I wish I would have met you guys 10 years ago, because how much further could I be down the road? Well, Johnny Appleseed said, when's the best time to plant a tree? 10 years ago. When's the second best time? Today. And so if we can help people today going forward, that just brings an incredible amount of comfort and excitement for us to come to work every day.
Hi, and welcome back into Eye on Retirement, the weekly show that keeps you in the know about all things retirement. If you have a question you'd like us to address on the air, please, by all means, give us a call. We've got operators standing by at 316-252-8707. If you'd like to set up that complimentary visit with us, a consultation to go over things of retirement, whether it's estate planning or your financial situation, taxes, all is housed right here under one roof at Market Advisory Group. The phone number again, 316-252-8707. You can go online at ionretirement.com, and you can also find us on Facebook. We're visiting with Danny Goolsby, financial advisor with Market Advisory Group. And in our last segment, Danny, we were talking a little bit about Social Security toward the end. And in 10 years, there's a group called the Milliman Health Index. Yes, sir. They study the cost of health care and things associated with it. And they're saying that 100% of Social Security will go for health care costs in a period of 10 years. And I know you're familiar with the report. Can you expound on that for us?
Sure. So the Milliman people, they are a think tank, and they track a lot of things. But one of the things that they track, that they're known for tracking, is the cost of healthcare and all things related to healthcare. Healthcare is one of those things that is a pesky thing to deal with. I mean, for all of us. I mean, our cost of healthcare, if we're under 65, it seems to be exorbitant. Our cost of healthcare, though, over 65, when you're eligible for Medicare, then you'll be able to take Medicare Part A, Part B, Part D, or you may do the Medicare Advantage. Whichever direction you go, those are different things for different people. But healthcare costs are rising much higher than inflation. We hit on inflation earlier, just ever so briefly. And so let's talk about that for just a minute. If you want to talk about the cost of healthcare going just in this current year that we're in, the cost of living adjustment next year for Social Security is 5.9%. The Medicare Part B premium for this year that we're currently in is usually $148.50 for usually most of us. If you make more income, it could be more than that, but $148.50. In the year 2022, though, the cost of Part B premium is going to be $170.10. Now, you may be saying, well, why are you throwing me all these numbers? Because I'm getting lost in the numbers. And here's why. Social Security, the cost of living adjustment for next year is 5.9, but the Part B premium for Medicare next year is not going up 5.9, it's going up over 14%.
That's a huge disparity.
It is. I mean, people, again, think, I've heard a lot of people, you probably have yourself, that said, I get an adjustment on my Medicare every year, but it covers just enough to cover my bump on my Blue Cross Blue Shield or whoever I have as my health care. It's covering just enough for my Medicare Part B premium and my Part D premium increases. And so, inflation is going crazy. And again, back to the Milliman people. The Milliman people are saying, they're forecasting that they say in the next 10 years, healthcare will be so expensive at that point that the Social Security that we are receiving actually will be going for the cost of healthcare. And it won't be going for groceries or gasoline or taxes or whatever we have. It's going for just purely the cost of healthcare. That's staggering.
What's the person supposed to do for food or clothing or just your basic essentials at that point?
And the answer is it's absolutely scary. If you can see this monster coming at you from down the road, you may have some time to react. But if you're not addressing it, if you're not recognizing it, if you're in denial that it's happening, then it's going to run over you. And again, it's absolutely scary for the people that say, man, my Social Security is X, but I have to turn around and pay that in either my point of service with my doctor or my deductibles at the hospital or my Medicare Part B premiums. If all of that's going for that, then again, I don't know what people are going to do either. Yeah, it's scary.
With Market Advisory Group, we offer you the opportunity to have all the consultants at one table, whether it's tax planning, estate planning, Medicare planning, or the financial planning. All of our people that are here to help are all under one roof, so you're not having to run all over town. And if you'd like to set up a complimentary consultation, by all means, please do. You can go online to ionretirement.com or call our number at 316-252-8707. Submit your question or schedule an appointment for your complimentary consultation. Danny Goolsby, if taxes are higher and benefits are lower, certainly that'll fix the country, right?
Well, if you look at your Social Security profile, I mean, I'm not a Goldilocks person and think that, everything's just going to be just fine. No, if you look at Social Security and what Social Security is doing, look at your profile with Social Security. It'll say by the year 2034, 2035, some people say actually earlier by 2029. Think about this. If it's 2029, that's 7-8 years into the future. But your Social Security profile will clearly tell you that there's not going to be enough dollars paid into Social Security for money paid out. So again, what if Uncle Sam is making us promises? How is he going to be able to fulfill those promises? And one person says, or there is a particular line of thought that says, well, he's going to have to cut some of his promise, or he's going to have to cut back on some of the things that he does. There's just not going to be enough money to fulfill all the promises that he's making to us as consumers.
So here's a question. If somebody is in retirement, how do you offset inflation if you're not working anymore?
Well, inflation, so you can take advantage of inflation. Inflation can either hurt us or it can help us. It's recognizing what's on the horizon and what's coming at us. So there are many things you can do to address inflation. You can look at one of the things that's really popular with consumers is I bonds. Now you can only invest about $10,000 into I bonds, and I bonds are inflation sensitive. So $10,000 a year doesn't go very far to try to keep up with inflation. But then you can look at what's called TIPS, that's a Treasury Inflation Protected Security, and they usually do well or better. We'll say it this way, they usually do better in times of higher inflation. You can look at real estate. Real estate has its own things. You can look at value stocks. If you look historically, value stocks usually do a little bit better in times of higher inflation than growth stocks will. So it's important that people, again, sit down and realize that, hey, this is coming at us, and it's a very real thing. People will spend more time planning their vacation than they will the next 30 years of their life. And so you can be in denial all you want, but I'm telling you, this stuff's coming for you.
Forewarned is forearmed.
That's right. That's exactly right.
And so there are actually ways that you can use inflation to your benefit financially.
That is actually right. Yeah. I mean, Alfred Einstein said that the strongest thing in the entire universe is compound interest. It can compound for you. It can compound against you. Well, that's the same thing with inflation. Inflation can work for us. It can work against us. So there are things that we can offset or hedge to make inflation not so serious.
If you've got tax planning or tax questions or investment questions as they pertain to inflation, Market Advisory Group is here to help with a full complement of all the people you need to have an effective plan in place to be forearmed, whether it's the financial and taxes, Medicare, or estate planning. Market Advisory Group is here to help. And if you've got a question or would like to set up a free consultation, please do so. You can call 316-252-8707. Again, that's 316-252-8707. We're on Facebook at Ion Retirement, or find us online at ionretirement.com. We'll be back with our final segment of this episode right after this.
confident are you in your current financial plan? Do you know with certainty how the recent market volatility will affect your future hopes and dreams? How much are you paying in taxes? And how much are you losing to unnecessary high fees? You didn't work to save this money so that you could spend your time worried in retirement. Now is the time to take charge of your finances so you can feel confident about your future. Call in during the next 30 minutes of today's show only to set up an absolutely complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review that will result in your own customized written plan. This is a $999 value that we're giving away complimentary to the first 10 people who respond. We'll start with a full-blown analysis of what you already have. By running a report to untangle how much you are currently paying in fees, how you're allocated for risk, and what it's costing to work with your current advisor. Next, we'll identify your goals. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Where do you want to go, and who do you hope to go there with? Is your current financial plan set up to get you there without mishap? Let's design a roadmap to create a financial plan you can follow with confidence. Get the piece that so many people are missing from their retirement. Find out how having a written plan can make a difference to your retirement dreams. Call now to schedule your complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review today.
Welcome back to Eye on Retirement. I'm Rick Everett, along with Financial Advisor Danny Goolsby with Market Advisory Group, and we've covered quite a bit in this short show. Everything from conversion of traditional IRAs to Roth IRAs, inflation and how that's going to affect you, the tax liabilities that come along with Medicare. There's a lot. It's a big pot of things that all combine together to make an effective retirement plan. And in our last segment, we were talking, Danny, about inflation and how inflation can work for you or against you. I mean, many of the things that we buy and pay for have been increasing in prices, and we've seen it just in the last 6 months. So a question for you would be, as a person is either in retirement or planning for retirement, how important is it to budget?
Oh, it's enormously important to budget. I mean, there's a group of people out there that don't like the word budget because budget comes with restraints, and I don't like to.
It's confining.
Yeah, don't do that to me. And it's not about confining. It's about actually it's the opposite. It's saying this is where the boundaries are, and this is where I can go and still be healthy. Or these are the boundaries. If I exceed these boundaries, I'm not going to be healthy. You want to know any good financial retirement income plan is going to be based on starting with how much do I need in retirement in today's dollars? Because if we don't know, Matt often likes to say it this way, it's impossible to measure, it's impossible to manage something you cannot measure. So if you're not measuring how much you need in retirement, there's no way you know how to satisfy that because you don't know where the boundaries are.
You have to know the parameters, or per se, you need to know the rules in order to play the game effectively.
Absolutely.
How often should people nearing or in retirement be looking at and reassessing that budget?
Well, we try to do, I like to do that personally about every quarter, just because things change, and some people say, well, I don't like to do it at all. And again, so at the very least, I would look at things every year at the very least, because again, inflation's coming, inflation's here. And so what my budget was last year, based on plus inflation this year, and then whatever the things I've added to my spending is going to be my budget this year. I need to know, okay, well, this is my budget, this is my outgo. Now, where's my income coming from, whether it's Social Security, pension, real estate, rentals, farm, wherever it's coming from, do I have enough? Am I going to run out of money? Do you realize that, we are all alike? I often like to say that I have 2 older sisters. I'm the youngest of 3. We're all 3 from the same 2 parents. We were reared in the same household. We were exposed to the same influences. And yet, Rick, do you know that my sisters, they ended up weird? And I say, and I tell you that little joke to say, no, they'll say, my sisters will look at me and say, no, Buster, you're the weird one. But here's what I mean by that is we are all have our own identity. We have all have our own thumbprint. We all have things that are important to us. But here's 2 things that we're all alike in this respect. And that is, number one is, I want to make sure that I don't outlive my money. Number one, I want to make sure that when I start my retirement years, whenever that is, that I'm running a foot race with my money, and I want to make sure that my money outlasts me, not myself outlasting my money. That's the first thing. The second thing is that I want to make sure that I'm not a burden on anyone. I want to make sure that I'm living independently and on my own terms. And so most of those two things could be said 1,000 different ways, but at the end of the day, people can say it this way: am I going to be okay? Am I going to be okay?
Danny, when we talk about inflation and retirement and budgeting, is there a way to budget for inflation?
Well, you can start to forecast that. It is actually hard to do. You know, it's interesting. In July and August of this year, Uncle Sam started telegraphing, if you will, through different reports that what inflation might be for 2022 for cost of living adjustment for Social Security. And they first started coming out, and the early reports were saying, oh, it's going to be 6.5, it's going to be 6.7, it's going to be something higher than that. And then when the report or the amount actually came out in October, it comes out in October every year for the next year, came out and it was 5.9. Well, the consumer base actually felt pretty good because it's only 5.9 that inflation is registered with Uncle Sam. They were talking about it was going to be 6.5 plus. And so if it's only 5.9, we feel like we really made a win there. So yeah, you can plan for it, but we have to stay on top of it.
There's a company on TV, one of the box store investment companies that talks about being a fiduciary and that they only do better when we do better, things along those lines. And I just wanted to point out that they're not the only game in town.
Oh, no. In fact, we are a fiduciary-based firm as ourselves. And so on the instruments that we use, we don't charge commissions, we don't charge front loads, none of that kind of thing. And we do better when our clients do better.
If you'd like to learn more about Market Advisory Group or set up a complimentary consultation to go over your investments, your tax planning, your budgeting, your estate planning, Medicare supplements, we do it all, and we do it all under one roof here at Market Advisory Group. Please visit our website at ionretirement.com if you'd like to set up that complimentary consultation, or leave us a question. Leave us a question with a physical address, and we'll send you an Ion Retirement coffee mug. Absolutely complimentary. We thank you for being with us in this segment and this show, and we'll be back with you again next week with Ion Retirement.
This broadcast is intended for informational and educational purposes only. The views, statements, and opinions expressed herein are those of the individual speakers and not necessarily those of foundations and its affiliates. The information contained herein does not constitute an offer to sell any or implied opinion or endorsement of any specific investment opportunity, offering, or issuer. Any discussion business in the states where it is registered or is excluded or exempt from registration requirements. Skill or ability. Legal services are offered by Eidelman Law Firm. Tax services offered by Market Tax Services. Market Advisory Group does not provide legal or tax advice. Investment advisory services are offered through Foundations Investment Advisors LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. This broadcast is copyrighted by Market Media Network. All rights reserved. Brought to you by Market Advisory Group. Invested in you. Call 316-252-8707. That's 316-252-8707. Or visit marketadvisorygroup.com.